The worst horror movie I ever saw was fucking great.
Hello and welcome to This May Hurt a Bit. My name is James Strayer and this is
John C. Myers.
And we are a horror franchise podcast discussing each film in popular and not so popular franchises. And today we are doing neither of those things. Today, popular
We've
and
given
not
up.
so popular.
The whole concept is dead.
Yep, this is it. This is our last episode. No, it was Final Destination, which we liked, that killed the entire process. No.
We got into a bitter fight about who enjoyed it more.
Right. I was expecting that to happen after 15 Puppet Master films, but no. Today we are just going to go through like a little bit of an October Halloween movie watching, just quick review type of thing, like talk about what we've been watching this month. This is largely because there's been a lot of travel between the two of us. I'm going to be on the road for the next 2 weeks for work. And I also had, for whatever reason, a crippling anxiety about picking whatever next franchise we were going to do and trying, if you want to peek inside my brain. But we just thought that we'd take the opportunity to just talk about some other horror films that we're watching. And if this goes up, well, I mean, if you're listening to this podcast, you probably like horror year round and not just October. But we all know that we kind of use this as a month to truly celebrate what we're watching. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you don't have to wait till Christmas to give me gifts. You can do that year round.
Right. Yes. So, yeah, we're probably a shorter bit here than a long discussion on a franchise thing, but I haven't been as diligent as I have in the past, but I've still managed to watch a few things. I've watched a couple of things that I didn't like so much that I just had to go back to the loving arms of like great things, you know, as I'm sure you understand that when you love horror, you wade through a lot of stuff that hurts a bit. And then sometimes you have to go back into the loving arms of, you know, Mandy or something like that. So that's what I've been doing.
Yeah, for me, I think my Halloween activation phrase is the Beyond. Is Lucio Fulci's The Beyond. Like it's ridiculous. It's not necessarily like a great movie, but it's always one that I can just go to, and then I'm like, yes, Halloween time. I'm in now.
Do you start each October with that, or do you kind of like meander around to the Beyond, or use it as a palate cleanser?
Yeah, I get to it eventually. Yeah, in this case, I had a couple of rum goes, and,
Sure.
and I was like, I just need something. And it's like I've been watching a lot of more schlocky stuff, and was like, well, I want that, but elevated. So after Doom Asylum, it's like I gotta watch something else.
Oh, so you're into elevated horror? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, the smart horror.
Yeah, the horror that's embarrassed to say that it's horror.
Right.
Anyway, so there's no structure to this. I figure we just go back and forth and talk a little bit about what we've been watching. So tell me about your first rum go. What was your first rough one?
With the Beyond the Darkness, which is a Joe D'Amato movie. Joe D'Amato is a Italian film director who I believe is responsible for Troll 2, among other things. Commonly known as one of the worst movies ever made. And I think the moral of the movie is that I need to live in an Italian villa. That's all I got out of it, because it was very pretty. There was some genuinely like really creepy stuff in there, like kind of some gothic horror, because the plot of it is essentially this guy, his wife is very sick, dies. He steals her body and preserves it, and then like keeps having to kill women to, I don't remember exactly why at this point, but
it's Italian.
Yeah, he keeps killing women. He has this weird relationship with his nanny who grew up with him but now wants to marry him, and some of the scenes between them are genuinely creepy. And the dude himself kind of looks like Billy Joel, which I got a big kick out of. But it's clumsy and awkward. But there were some fun moments in there. But probably the rummest go I've had thus far is, I'm going to say, outside of what we've watched at movie night together, I'm going to say is Doom Asylum, which was a late 80s horror, clearly influenced by like the quipping of Freddy Krueger. Very, very true to your opinion about goopy monsters.
Yes.
Is that the main character guy is supposed to have, like, he survived a crash. The villain is he survived a crash with his wife or girlfriend who just won the lottery, and they thought he was dead too, so started doing an autopsy, which includes taking off his skin, I guess.
Oh.
And he came back to life and went nuts and lives in this asylum now. But he's dried out. He's not goopy, so the makeup looks really crummy.
Yeah.
And it's got the Kristen Davis from Sex and the City, who wears like one of the most unflattering swimsuits I've ever seen. And it is like, it's nothing against her. It's just like, I felt... I'm not comfortable. I'm not usually watching a movie going like, man, I feel so bad for your vagina right now. But with Doom Asylum, And so, after that, I needed some palate cleansing.
Yeah. Where can our listeners find both of those films? Where did you stream them or Blu-ray them?
Doom Asylum is on Arrow.
Okay.
The Arrow streaming service, which I highly recommend. If you like more cult horror stuff, and it's pretty inexpensive compared to what, particularly for what some of these are going for now. And there's a lot of like great Italian crime movies as well as slasher horror.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. They have different, kind of like Shudder, they have different segments or whatever. But it's nice. I feel like Shudder tends to frequently go toward like more new horror. Yeah, which is great. Like, it's great. There's an avenue for that. But, but Arrow is really good at preserving some of the more cult stuff.
I feel like Arrow is only like $5 a month, or even like $7 a month or something.
It's like 5 or 6.
I saw an ad on the back of the new Fangoria that they have. I think it's like they're running a sale or something like that. So go look at Arrow video. I know their Blu-rays are pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm. And then the other one, the Beyond the Darkness also was Arrow. They're both Arrow.
Okay, great.
So, I mean, it's one of those, like, I kind of know what I'm getting into.
Of course.
But they were just worse than I anticipated.
Yeah. And,
Did you watch Anthropophagus or whatever, the Joe D'Amato?
No, I know the box cover in my head, but...
Yeah, because they did it on Joe Bob recently.
Okay.
It's like one of those things where it's got a couple of creepy moments, but it's a lot of people just faffing about.
Yeah, padding out a 70-minute runtime.
Yeah. How about you? What was what's been your sort of nadir?
Well,
starting low.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of hate to say this, but I think this is much more of a personal taste or personal issue type of thing. This movie's been getting a lot of praise on Twitter, and I'm all for that. But it's a found footage film called Deadstream that I watched on Shudder. I can see why people like this movie, but it's so not for me. And it was one of those things where if you want to see a protagonist, like commented on, but you hate that type of person, it's going to be hard to watch that type of person, because Deadstream is all about a content creator on YouTube who does all these wacky things, and he decides he's going to spend the night in a supposed haunted house and live stream the entire thing. But I found him so irritating, just like I do most like YouTube content creator type of people who are just ego driven, And so I had a hard time watching that film and enjoying just that guy, as a character. And again, I know in horror, like sometimes they have irritating characters who you want to see get messed with. That's part of the fun, if you're a little bit sadistic about that kind of stuff. But there were a couple of good set pieces. I can definitely give it that. And I'm not down on found footage horror. And in fact, there's one argument that can always be made for found footage stuff, whereas like, why aren't you turning off the camera? And I think that if your character is a content creator for YouTube, the whole purpose is keeping the audience engaged. So that's kind of a clever way around that. But it could be a generational thing. But I just found watching this particular person like live streaming his stuff just so irritating that I just couldn't. I even stopped the movie one night and fired it back up again a second night and just watched 2 minutes of him running around screaming. I was like, nope, can't finish it tonight. I need to come back to this. So that was a rough one for me.
Found footage can be tricky. I don't have like a strong opinion one way or the other about the genre, but I will say that like some of the ones that people like, or at least that have spun off into some more franchise. So I haven't seen any Paranormal Activity, but like Hell House and Grave Encounters. There might only be two Grave Encounters, but like neither of those really stuck with me. They're like, yeah, that was fun, but it was, it just didn't resonate. It was just like, that was fine. But like there are other ones, like particularly something like Noroi, The Curse, or I haven't gotten. It's one of those things like, when it's one of the more like serious horror movies or something like that, something that wants to take its time, I really feel like I got to be like dialed in and like no distractions and that. So I really want to watch Incantation on Netflix. That's supposed to be like a all self-recorded thing. It's supposed to be really good.
I really, really like Grave Encounters for whatever reason. That one stuck with me. I am looking forward to going back and doing all 4 of the Rec films for this podcast. Those are pretty fantastic, or at least the first 2 are.
You talk about like spending time with a character that you don't like, that while they're being sort of lampooned. Yes. I think Grave Encounters does that pretty well. Because the whole the reality show host that like honestly reminded me more of the guy from, do you remember that show Cheaters? I don't know if it's still on the air.
I'm aware of it. Yeah.
Just like that guy was such a sleazebag.
Right.
The fakiness of the whole thing is kind of being lampooned, but it wasn't done in this. It made it irritating enough to get its point across.
Sure. And that's the funny thing, because there are plenty of horror films that have kind of degenerate people at their core.
Oh, but sure.
I will take that over a ego-driven, attention-grabbing like YouTube streamer. any day, So the film that I started October off with is a Dutch film called Speak No Evil. It's one of those movies where you could say, go into it knowing as little as possible, but at the same time, why are you listening to a podcast about horror movies if you don't want to hear anything about it, You can just read a list if you want, but it very much plays like one family gets invited to spend time with another family in another country. And it's just like that idea of like, oh, come down to our farmhouse. It'll be wonderful. We'll spend the weekend. We'll drink good wine. We'll eat good food. It'll be great. And I think anybody these days would go like, ooh, I don't know about just going to spend time with people we don't know. We're all very insular these days, I think. And do you accept a very kind invitation? The majority of the film is very much about these awkward moments, almost like Curb Your Enthusiasm style, without the comedy or the like screaming of Larry David, obviously. But it's about like, well, why would you leave at this point? Would you just be offending them? And then definitely takes a turn that I think is completely terrifying. It's a very, I almost want to say by the end of the film, it's a very mean film. I would say that if you are a parent, it might be a little harder to watch, definitely. And I don't want to get into why, because it's obviously, I don't know. It was one of those films that like really hung with me for the next week or so, and I still think about it, and it's rather disturbing. But I very, very much recommend it. It's it's a hard watch, but it's very good. So check that out on Shudder.
Mean films are always interesting. Like it's tough to make a blanket statement of, oh, I just don't like mean films. But like I don't like movies like Michael Haneke or Yorgos Lanthimos, if I'm saying that name right. Where it just feels like Killing of a Sacred Deer, where it just feels like bully stuff, where it's like, well, you just made these characters, Todd Solondz or something, where you just made these characters just to be mean to them. And it just feels bad to watch. I don't know what I'm supposed to get out of this.
Sure.
And I know that's a pretty surface level thing, particularly for Haneke, but I just don't like his whole thing of like, you're bad for liking movies. And so I'm going to do that by making a movie that's about how bad you are for liking movies.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
No one made you do that, man. You did that.
There is a little bit of Haneke style stuff in this. Okay. So, yeah.
But like but I have seen movies that are like rough and mean to his characters, but that are enjoyable.
Mm-hmm. So it's definitely one of those, it's either going to work for you or it doesn't. Mm-hmm. And your mileage may vary type of thing. But I remember being like, that was the first movie that I'd seen in a while where I just sat on my couch afterwards, the credits rolled, and I was under a blanket just being like, I don't even want to get up from this couch right now. Yeah. And you know what's funny about all that is like, just even saying that, it's just, I could hear some people say, well, why do you watch movies like this? Like, I want to feel terrible. No, it's anybody listening to a horror podcast can identify with that. But it was an interesting feeling after Speak No Evil.
I don't want to get into it here, particularly because you haven't seen it, but that's for different reasons. That's how I felt at the end of We're All Going to the World's Fair.
Oh, interesting.
Where I was really kind of just sitting there after it was over. It's a very different kind of movie. Mm-hmm. It's much more sort of art house horror, very kind of slow, and it's supernatural, or is it? Or I don't know. Yeah. But it's I don't want to say too much about it because I might be doing a little separate thing about it for my other podcast, John Alex Hate Stuff, but I would still recommend it. I'll go so far as to say, check it out. It's not going to be for everybody. But
that's on HBO Max, right?
Yeah, it's a movie really about being online. Yeah. And as someone as terminally online as I am, it resonated a bit.
Yep. Yeah.
It made me very sad. But it also made me really glad that I grew up when I did. Yeah. That the internet wasn't the thing that it is now.
Oh, my God.
Or even like it was in my 20s. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know. It's weird. It would pair well with Pulse. Have you ever seen that one?
I saw it once when it first came out.
Yeah. I really like that. Like, I haven't seen the American version of it, but the Japanese version is one of my favorite movies. And that's probably going to be one that I end up revisiting this season because it's great. Mm-hmm. It's slow and long, but it's similar themes. Yeah. Have you had any, because I know you said you've revisited some stuff. Have you had, what else have you revisited besides Mandy?
Revisited. So yeah, that's a good one. So I revisited a few recently. I revisited American Psycho because I think I had only seen that literally once when it first came out before it's become kind of a cultural meme at this point. And damn, it was entertaining. Yeah. Like Christian Bale, just watching him in that. I don't know if I have anything even remotely new to say about that movie, but man, it's kind of a rollicking good time. I've been kind of wanting to rewatch it in the last year or two, just because I kept thinking to myself, like, God, everybody seems to love this. And I only watched it once and I thought it was okay when it first came out. And I think maybe it's just being more grown up since the last time I watched it and being more exposed to the business world and that kind of thing. I mean, there's some stuff that I identified in that was so much fun. And yeah, it's just an easy watch, really.
Yeah. Mary Herron, the director, I've recently watched I Shot Andy Warhol, which I had not seen in a long time. And that was fun to revisit too. But yeah, she's great. And that movie is really good. I can understand why it really launched Bale the way it did.
Absolutely.
That was good. Did you I think you also told me you watched The Ritual?
So The Ritual, I watched that a couple nights ago. The Ritual is on Netflix, and this is fast becoming a movie that I'm just going to watch once a year, I think. I think it came out in 2017 or 2018. It's by the same director as the new Hellraiser film, which we'll get to in a short bit, I'm sure. But it's based on a novel by a guy named Adam Neville. And he has become my kind of like go-to modern horror author. If a horror book is just kind of written for me, it's what he writes. Like, it's just very specific to what I like. And The Ritual is about 4 men who, I guess they tend to go on vacation together like once every year, once every 2 years or so. And they decide to go hiking through an isolated, dense forest in Norway, like do a long camping and hiking trip. But where it ends up going is like pure folk horror terror and one of the greatest creature designs I've seen in the last decade or so, I think.
Yeah, I did a total 180 on this movie because when I first saw it, I maybe I was just in a bad mood or something. I was just like, man, this is kind of boilerplate, nothing exciting. I like the creature though. And then I watched it again like the next year and it blew me away. Yeah. It's so great. And I think, I definitely think more people should watch it. And the creature design is amazing, but it's so much more than that.
Yes. Yeah. There's this scene, this isn't a spoiler, it's just a set piece, but like, I mean, I guess we can just say like, hey, spoiler alert for all these movies just in case. But there's this scene. It's basically the desperation of being lost in the woods, which I know is a tale as old as time, but they find a very small, like rundown house. And they're like, well, we either stay the night in this house or we stay the night in the rain pouring outside. Of course, when they all go to sleep, they wake up. All of them are experiencing some sort of nightmarish, like personal terror. And the acting of all 4 leads in that moment, I've never seen actors like convey terror like that before. That's what really jumped out at me this time. They look completely beside themselves with terror. And like, it just looks so realistic. Yeah, everything from like the weird chanting sounds towards the end of the film, the very odd sound design that happens at the end. I mean, again, The Ritual is that's a movie made for me based on a lot of like stuff I love out of the modern folk horror takes. Yeah,
it's got that guy who was Thomas in Downton Abbey, Robert James Collier. So if you like Downton Abbey when it was good, you know, look out for that. But all the acting in it is
top notch. Yeah. There's another Adam Neville movie on Netflix I didn't like quite as much. It's called No One Gets Out Alive. And maybe I should revisit that one because I remember that one having an incredible creature design at the end too. But anything that guy does now, I'm just kind of like absolutely stuck on him. So if you want to read some good horror this month, check out anything by Adam Neville. Definitely.
Speaking of revisiting things, have you ever watched The Night House?
Yes.
Which is also by David Bruckner.
Right.
That is on my list to revisit because that's something that I would recommend it. I think Rebecca Hall, it's worth watching for Rebecca Hall, but I kind of want to rewatch it just because I have some very specific complaints about the plot, really like the ending that kind of undoes the whole movie. And I'm like, wait a minute, did I get that right? And I kind of want to check it out again. Plus, it's just worth watching again for her. Yeah. And I do like David Bruckner. I haven't watched Southbound yet, and I'm not so huge on what I've seen of the VHS series.
Oh, right.
I've only watched a little bit.
Yeah. I liked The Night House a lot. It had such a good tone and atmosphere for me.
Yes.
That like if you can nail that, then and some of the practical effects in that, just the way they reveal that sense of walking into a room and you think you see something, but it's not there. You know, like they did that so well.
You know, it's an easy thing to to use the like, well, the house is haunted, but it's really the person that's haunted.
Yeah.
I mean, but you're not going to do better than Shirley Jackson on that.
Yes.
But this is great. And the way they did it was very inventive and really cool. I just kind of like, I think I was thinking about it too much. And I kind of want to just go back and watch it and just vibe out on it and just enjoy that. Speaking of that kind of thing, I just watched, and I feel like maybe you've seen this too, Messiah of Evil.
Did I see that?
It's a wild one. It is. It's written by the guy who wrote American Graffiti, and then I think subsequently Howard the Duck.
Yes, but, I have seen this. Yeah. American Graffiti.
It's this,
Howard the Duck.
Yeah, it's this 1970s curio cult film. It's weird. Like, it's like story wise, if you just like want to go in like and watching a movie. Yeah, it's kind of weak in a lot of places, but it's as the kids say, has cursed vibes. Like it's real, like it's just uncomfortable to watch. It feels like being in a nightmare.
Yeah,
which I think is also why I like The Beyond so much.
Sure, yeah.
I don't like being the well actually guy.
Yeah.
So when a movie can do that, where it's like it doesn't matter, like this is just the nightmare logic or whatever just works, I'm on board. Yeah. So if you're looking for something, and plus it's just very pretty.
Yes, that's what I remember being about it. Yeah.
It's weird. And it also features Royal Dano, who we just watched in Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Aha, yeah.
No notes about that movie.
No.
Perfect movie.
Killer Clowns from Outer Space. I had never seen that film somehow.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It was one of those ones that it just like it had escaped me somehow. And I'm so glad we watched it for our bad movie night, because I was just like, finally, check the boxes on this one.
It was on TV a lot, like it was on HBO. Yep. And so I ended up seeing it, kind of like peeking over the covers to the blankets to watch it occasionally, because those clowns are so creepy and still are just amazing looking.
Right.
We had this whole conversation in the last episode about, CG aging well and stuff like that. But, the costumes here are just so good that they're going to age real well, because they still look really good. Like I'm still looking at them like how, like all these articulations and like the ears and all that stuff. Yeah. It's just very impressive.
And there's a whole
as
bunch
stupid
of them.
as it needs to be. Yeah. Yeah. The wide variety of clowns.
Yes.
But it's like, it says what's on the tin, like it's there. It's Killer Clowns from Outer Space. And the movie's like, yeah, it's that.
That's what it is.
We're going to have fun with it. And
yes.
Like when I was a kid, it was super scary because evil clowns and they're, things that I recognize as being good, like cotton candy or melting people.
Yeah.
And when you grow up, that shit's a little bit sillier. It still works.
Yeah. It was done with a lot of heart, and they just completely went for it. No dodging.
No dodging. Yeah. That's a great way to put it. No dodging.
One film I caught at the Hollywood Theater here in Portland, an absolute formative movie for me. I watched Young Frankenstein.
Oh yeah.
Again, I'll call it horror because it's Frankenstein. Fine, whatever. Yeah. But Mel Brooks, 1973. I'm a gigantic Mel Brooks fan, and I have this weird thing where I'm like, the man is 96 or something like that, and that's going to be the next kind of like celebrity death. This feels weird to even talk about in some ways, but like that one's going to hurt a little bit.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I bet the Hollywood will do a big like retrospective. And they decided to just play Young Frankenstein on 35 millimeter this month. And that's a movie that I watched with my dad and with my grandpa. And I feel like I was seeing naughty jokes before I was supposed to see them, but they're not that naughty, but they kind of are. I mean, I remember just like giggling to myself as an 8-year-old when Gene Wilder says, nice knockers. It's so dumb, but I loved it. I always knew this, but it really struck me seeing it on the big screen this time, like how beautifully photographed that film is. Like it is shot like a 40s like gothic film, and they even used the same type of dollies in 1973 that they did in the 40s. And so some of the camera movements look a little bit shaky, but that's the point. They were doing it on purpose, So it was definitely like lampooning something that Mel Brooks clearly like had a lot of love for. And my goodness, it was so good to see on the big screen. So I recommend that for anybody.
That's one of the movies I feel like I've seen the first half hour to 45 minutes of that a billion times, because we would watch a lot as a kid, but I would not make it that far. I'd fall asleep.
Right. Yeah.
And the same thing where, like there were so many dirty jokes, but I feel like, and I'm sure, or my mom can tell you something different about it, but I feel like when I was a kid, there was a lot of me just going like, I don't get that. I'm sure it'll make sense when I'm older. Yeah. I'm not even going to ask about it. I'm sure I'll get it.
Wise beyond your ears for being that young. Yeah.
Yeah. I have not gotten the jokes. I still don't get it, but I don't know what boobs are.
On the same heels as Young Frankenstein, I did watch, for the first time in a very long time, I watched Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein from like 1945 or so.
I have never seen any of those.
It's so much fun. Like, it's not slow at all. Dumb physical gags. Abbott and Costello being wacky like they always are, but they run into the Wolfman, Dracula, and Frankenstein, and I believe the Invisible Man. So you got all the Universal monsters mixed with Abbott and Costello, and it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's an easy watch. It's good stuff. They do have Bela Lugosi and Lon Chaney Jr. as Dracula and the Wolfman, full everything.
Nice.
It's solid. It's one of those ones that I don't have a lot of memories from childhood on, but a little bit. But it was just kind of fun to like. This is a lot of people's a generation above us. Like, it's a lot of people's like favorite horror film or favorite comedy, or like it's a very like important film from the era.
Formative film. Yeah. Speaking of that, I did check out Creature of the Black Lagoon, which I'd never seen before. Speaking of Universal monsters.
Yeah.
Yeah, never seen it. Apparently it's my nephew's favorite movie. He's like 6, I think. 5.
He has a fine taste.
Yeah, he loves spooky things and mysterious creatures, as he calls them.
Mysterious creatures. That's adorable.
Yeah, so he's a big fan of that, and that was like the underwater stuff looks really great.
It's beautiful.
I didn't expect it to be. There's a lot of shirtless dudes yelling at each other.
Yeah,
but it's interesting also its placement in the horror thing, how it's kind of a move away from the more sort of like gothic horror of Frankenstein and Dracula to like science based. Like, here's this thing that evolved. Yep. Here's this, it's not necessarily a nuclear monster that would come like a little bit later, but it is sort of like a creature out of science rather than magic.
Sure.
Or the dark science of Frankenstein. Yeah, it was pretty good. And like that suit is amazing.
Absolutely, it is. Yeah.
And it was pointed out to me by my sister. The costume was the work of Millicent Patrick, which was kind of, it was unheard of to have a woman costume designer like doing that kind of, creature effect or something like that. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of a big deal. And it looks amazing. Yeah. It's like when it's out of the water, like breathing and stuff, it's creepy and great.
Yeah.
Love it.
It's been a long time since I've watched that one.
It's also one of those that, I'm planning to kind of revisit some of those. The Criterion has all those Universal monster movies right now, and a lot of them are real short.
Yeah. And
so it's nice when you don't have a lot of time to feel like movies now, or, a lot of them are like, well, here's at least 2 hours.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, definitely highly recommended.
A really big one for me, and I feel like I need to watch it at least 1 or 2 more times before I can really be certain about it, but I'm a huge Hellraiser fan, and this was the year of finally coming out with a new Hellraiser that was not straight to DVD. We will get into this one much deeper when we finally do our Hellraiser series. But the thing about this is that for years, gosh, I should know this. It's either New Line or Miramax had the rights to Hellraiser, and they kept on just making these straight to DVD films just so they could hold on to the rights. It's been so long since there was like some serious time and budget and talent put into these films. And David Bruckner, Ritual and Night House was tapped with Hellraiser. And I came out on a Friday. I left work early, literally, went down into my basement and pulled all the shades so I could watch Hellraiser at like 4:00 in the afternoon because I was so stoked to see it. And overall, I liked it. The things that I didn't like about it, I think, are things that are based on me being a massive Hellraiser fan, and I'm still kind of processing it a little bit. But overall, I did like it. You watched it, right?
I watched it, and I have not watched all the Hellraiser movies. I was a few years ago, multiple years ago. I was like, all right, I'm just going to do them all. I'm going to watch them all. And I made it to 4, and then went, I'm done. Yeah, I cannot. This sucks.
Good thing we started this podcast.
But I love the first one. I enjoy the second one immensely. Third one is kind of fun if I remember correctly, but so I don't have that deep thing, but I know that they get atrocious. That they just get abysmal, and I am fascinated to get into that and dive into what was going on behind the scenes and just why these things suck. That being said, so I was a little bit trepidatious going into this just because it's not just because it's the long-standing series, but I feel like legacy sequels in general have been bleak, have been pretty awful. We will, when we do Texas Chainsaw, boy, we'll talk about that one because woof. So yeah, I don't know, but it's David Bruckner, so that's cool. And they're already doing some interesting things where it's not Doug Bradley being Pinhead, Jamie Clayton, which is kind of cool. Because I know in the book, I've never read The Hellbound Heart.
Oh yeah,
but it's my understanding that Pinhead is a little bit more androgynous.
Extremely so. Yeah.
And then I started to see some pictures come out, and I wasn't so sure because everything looked like there's a critic, Katie Stebbins, who coined this term "intangible sludge." Of the way that so many movies look now, with the way they're really kind of like underlit and like kind of very same low contrast kind of thing. And some of the initial pictures of Pinhead made me a little bit nervous about that. And I think the movie dodges that pretty well. Yeah. There's some moments of it, and that's fine. That's not to say that you can't have that, but I was worried it was all going to be like that. And it looked better than I initially saw. I
would definitely recommend it. And part of it is also just the fact that the bar is so damn low for a good Hellraiser sequel at this point. I wanted them to go further into the whole pain is pleasure, pleasure is pain type of thing from the first film, because Hellraiser is all about excess and like how far do you push excess like into a supernatural realm, really. And I think they danced around it a little bit much in this. I wish they would have gone like a little bit more head on with that, but. And some of the BDSM stuff is like a little bit filed down, but that's not exactly as provocative as it was in the early 80s,
right. Well, I also think this one was a little bit more about the pursuit rather than the pursuit as a concept rather than like the actual pursuit. Because in the first one you have, here is this, essentially like a bored housewife.
Yeah.
Finds Frank, who she's, had an affair with previously. And he is this wild occult dude who's just always after pleasure like that. And then you see her falling into that and getting into this excess. Where in this case, you have the billionaire guy played by Goran Viznik, who is, I really liked him in that role.
Yeah.
For kind of like, it was a little bit like underwritten, but he kind of brought a lot to it.
He did.
Odessa Azion as like the former drug addict, who's kind of our main character in this. And I like that they made her a piece of shit. Like there's not a lot of redeeming qualities about her, but she's not irritating to watch. It made me think of, and this is also on my list of movies to rewatch, although I'm really hesitant to do so. This and another movie I watched recently, Retribution, made me think of Bliss, which is a movie that, again, like horror Twitter was going nuts about for a while. I hate that movie. It's so grating and annoying, and everyone is just awful. And it was not pleasurable to watch at all. But this one, they made someone that is a piece of shit, but isn't horribly grating to watch.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's a little aside there. But I do think this was a lot more about like the kind of people that would pursue pleasure rather than the pursuit of pleasure. And that there or sensation, I guess, for lack of a better word, and the damage it does to the people around them.
Yeah.
And is that good or bad that it did that? I don't know, because I do like that element of the first one at all, the person really falling into that. And this is a lot more trying to fight against it, which is an interesting viewpoint of it.
Yeah.
But it did soften some of that stuff. And frankly, I didn't love the creature designs. I didn't love the Cenobite designs.
Really?
They're fine. They're trying to go like a lot more like it's all just flesh that's flayed and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Didn't look goopy. And it was very like pink and purpley, which I just thought like now it just looks like someone wearing a suit. Like it doesn't seem like, it seems like they're almost like should be fighting the Power Rangers.
Right.
It didn't have the real kind of like, I think about her name is just the female Cenobite.
Yep.
In the first couple, and just that thing on her neck is so awful and like evocative and way more than some of the stuff that was here, because it just was so over the top done that they just looked like aliens rather than here's some figures. But I did like the weird, there's that one monster that gets stuck and the skin comes off and you see the chattery teeth, so like that. That was really neat. There is some great stuff in there, but overall I prefer the old timey Cenobite designs.
Right. For this one, I know that they were going for more of a, because black leather is just sort of overdone at this point.
It's just like, the Matrix.
Right. And they didn't, in the early 80s, it was Clive Barker just like basically talking about BDSM sex clubs that he went to in London. For this, they were trying to do the flayed skin, the torn skin is their outfit. And that's a good idea, and I'm not entirely sure it translated well. Like, I'm not sure if they executed just quite as well, but I don't know. So, some of this is kind of nitpicky for me because I still overall enjoyed it.
I think some of it is that, and we can get into this more when we actually do it, but like at the end when Goran Viznik, whatever it is happening to him, and the thing pulls the flesh back from his cheeks,
Yes.
And how ragged that is. But so many of these other people, everything's so neat.
Oh, I see that.
All the designs or whatever. So like they took the mathematical precision of the head placement of pins and like made that across the board to their flaying.
I see that.
And then so it kind of makes it again like more designed rather than just this is some raggedy ass flesh that this happened to.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, definitely interested in talking about this more, and definitely interested in talking about Halloween Ends, which I have not seen yet, and the whole like David Gordon Green trilogy, because I did watch Halloween Kills, and that thing is shit. And I love everyone involved. You know, I love all the behind the scenes people involved in that. I think they make good movies. I think The Righteous Gemstones is fantastic, and I just that was a stinker.
Yeah,
I will save that.
Kills.
We could save that for because I know that we're not alone in that opinion, but we can dive into that when we get into that series. But woof.
Kills is very, very divisive. I mean, I hated Kills. I hated Halloween Kills.
I am comfortable saying that.
Yeah, I thought that the 2018 one was pretty good. I liked it just fine. I didn't love it, but I enjoyed it. Really hated the second one. And I did watch Ends, and I won't get into any spoilery type of stuff at all, but I liked it a lot more than I thought I would. And maybe it's because the bar was so low for Kills. But there's an actual story in Halloween Ends. As much as we love horror, we can throw the story to the sideline a lot of times. And we're just like, did I have fun? But Halloween Ends is an actual story. I think that the treatment of Michael Myers in this one is definitely going to be polarizing to a lot of people. And they took some big swings in this, but I actually really enjoyed it. And it makes me, can't believe I'm saying this, but like having seen Ends, I want to watch all three of these again to see how they fit together as a cohesive, like, new trilogy, which we will do potentially next year. Yeah. Yes. But yeah, it's, I was surprised. I liked it. It felt like a movie instead of a just series of pointless kills. And
I've been hearing that from a lot of people. But you know, sometimes I wonder about that too. Cause like, that's one of my, and not to just keep crapping on horror Twitter, but because they're very positive people and that's good. But I think sometimes they just get too positive about things.
Too positive sometimes.
But like there is this deep strain of love for Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, the director's cut.
Halloween 2
versus the theatrical cut. Yeah. And I watched it and it's like, well, it's not Halloween 1. Yeah. So it's got like, it's great because it's Halloween 1, but I didn't really enjoy it that much. But I'm curious to revisit, see if that's changed.
Yeah.
Particularly in the context of watching all the other ones leading up to it, because I know that series gets pretty rough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still curious to check out Ends. I just haven't done it yet. I need to sign up for yet another streaming service for 5 minutes. And
I think the last time I watched something on Peacock was when Halloween Kills came out. And then I canceled my service after that. And so I went back to it and I was like, oh God, I got to sign up for this again. And it's going to be $10 a month. So I got to hurry up and like find something else on Peacock to watch before my 30 days because I'm definitely canceling it after that. But they got me.
Yeah, like AMC Plus or like Star something. It's like, all right, I'll just like a month. I'm just going to bang through all the stuff they have and then, or this might be relevant to what I want to watch for Halloween or something and then go away. Speaking of going back to just pointless slasher movies, have you ever seen Terrifier? I have not.
I have not seen Terrifier. I'm very happy for Terrifier 2, though.
Yeah, I'm hearing a lot of people being like, it's long. Again, talking about like, it's super long movies. It's like 2+ hours. But people are like, it's actually really good because I really didn't like All Hallows Eve, which is the first appearance of Art the Clown, because it just seemed like a demo reel for like a costume company or something like that. It just was really weak. And I've heard similar things about Terrifier, that it's like, well, you're talking about a mean movie. Like it's just there for this Art the Clown guy to just murder people. And there's not really plot. I'm still curious to check it out. Mainly because I really want to see what Terrifier 2 is all about, but I don't think that's just in the theater currently.
I think so. Yeah, I'll watch both of those when they come out in streaming services. But I also have this thing where I'm so over the killer clown type of thing, having just said that Killer Clowns from Outer Space is amazing.
But this clown's not from outer space. This clown is, man. Come on.
Yeah. I'm really, really overly tired of the creepy clown motif. And
speaking of Rob Zombie,
I did reread it this year, and I feel like Pennywise is allowed a certain, ultimate state of that. But I don't know. I'm tired of that as like isn't this weird? it's a clown that kills people. Like, I'm just done, you know?
Yeah, it's just kind of a played out thing.
And that's coming from someone who loves Batman and the Joker.
Yeah.
Although
how
not
about
so
a movie
much
about
anymore.
a clown that's nice? You want to subvert things. How about a nice clown movie? How about Patch Adams 2?
Yeah, I'm tired of homicidal clown things, but Terrifier, I just feel like I just need to see it for whatever reason.
I'm curious. Yeah. It's in the discourse, as it were.
Yeah, and I'm really happy for those filmmakers too, who were able to like make an indie film that broke through. And evidently, look, I don't believe for a second that people are vomiting and fainting in the aisles. Not at all. Like, I'm sure that's made up. There's a part of me that will always be 17 years old and want to freak out the normies type of thing. And I'm so glad that this is breaking through to the mainstream a little bit and having people on like The View talk about it stuff. So yeah.
It's great. Like I'm all for it, simply because I don't know, everything's terrible right now. And if you can sort of compartmentalize that anxiety and horror into some of this stuff, yeah, go for it. Because so much of this awful stuff is kind of beyond our ability to deal with. So just escape into some awesome horror movies. Just give up.
Yes.
No, but it is cool. Just like, again, just to find spaces for these different kinds of horror, that it's not just like, no, it's got to be this serious thing about trauma. It can just be about a clown murdering people, and that's fine too.
Yes.
You know, like there's so many different kinds of horror out there, and you know, hopefully you can appreciate them all, and if not, hopefully you can find something within there that you can really dig on. So I think that's a big thing with sort of my partner's journey into some more horror stuff. Not a big fan, but then like we started going to queer horror at the Hollywood Theater, which if you live in Portland, Oregon, and you know, go check that out. Anthony Hudson and Carlo Rossi, aka Carlo Rossi, amazing. They put on a fun show before every screening, but Carl also talks about the movie and why it's important or whatever. They did this whole thing, you know, it was more of a, like a feminist stream the first time we watched it, but like that's how I found out about the queer horror element of Child's Play and really got into that, and that was fascinating.
Yeah.
And so finding that was the more sort of fun side of horror, rather than like we saw Midsummer and they enjoyed it, but it's still like, well, that's a little bit harder to watch, where it's you can just go throw popcorn at the screen and laugh along with Chucky. That's great.
Yeah.
There's just all kinds of variety out there, and this is the perfect season to go check that out in some form or another.
Anything else? I mean, I feel like I've kind of touched on the ones that I wanted to. The rewatches, the new watches, the old stuff.
There's I mean, like as we've pointed out on the Twitter thing, like I've been kind of logging what I've been watching. I'm behind on it on my Twitter feed at Thought Admiral. But there's some there. One thing I would say, and it's not like I'm hard pressed to recommend it, but I still really enjoyed it. Retribution, which is this 1987 movie. It's about like an artist tries to commit suicide. An artist who's got the haircut of Mark Davis, if you know who that is, the owner of the Raiders. Is this awful bull haircut. He goes to kill himself, and he dies at the same time as this mobster who was murdered by some people who wronged him. And somehow, like, he gets possessed by the mobster, comes through, like, the guy survives trying to kill himself, but he's possessed by the mobster and comes through and ends up, like, when he falls asleep, the mobster, like, takes control of his body or astral projects him. It's not really clear.
Oh, wow.
And kills the people he's wronged. It owes a lot to like Mario Bava and the Giallo tradition. It's very colorful in place, particularly that like bright neon green. That's pretty great. There's a part where he and the hooker with a heart of gold, that's his girlfriend, go visit an art installation that's all like neon stuff. That's kind of neat looking.
Oh, fun.
But it's very uneven. It's slow because you're not really clear what's going on because he's not. And so figuring that out isn't that exciting. But when it goes, it goes. The kill scenes are ridiculous. The scenes where he becomes the evil monster guy, just nuts. So if you just want something very pretty to look at that's schlocky as hell, Retribution goes pretty hard.
And where'd you watch that?
That was available to rent on Amazon. I don't know if it's anywhere else, if it's on Tubi or something, because Tubi is great with stuff as well.
Tubi is chock full of stuff, man.
Yeah, like, I wish they were a little bit more judicious with how they did their ads, because sometimes it's like, oh, in the middle of a sentence, here's an ad. Like, okay.
Gosh, yeah.
Like that's what happened when I watched Nightmare Beach. But yeah, there's so much great stuff on Tubi. I recommend that series enough. It wasn't Tubi, because I ended up watching Nightmare Beach on Canopy, which I got through my local library.
Ah, there you go. Yes,
I watched the Spring Break slasher movie through my local library, which is pretty great. Retribution is only on Amazon currently, and you have to rent it, but it's a cheap rental.
Well, that's it, everyone. That's a peek into the October of James and John here, and we do plan on getting back to a franchise here soon. Like I said, I'm traveling for the next 2 weeks. I didn't really want to pack up the podcast gear and travel with it necessarily. So also I'm going to be working in DC and New York, and I just didn't want to do that.
Right. So, why not go?
Yeah. I'm going to go out and be away from the television.
Wait, are you telling me that James Takes Manhattan? Is that what's going to happen?
Yeah, there you go. All right. So just for this podcast, I'm going to find that place where they took the photo and just like try to stand like just like the poster overlooking Manhattan for this podcast. But yeah, we may go dark for a couple of weeks after this comes out, but don't unsubscribe. We'll be back. Our next plan is, I think we mentioned it on the last episode, was Silent Night, Deadly Night. Because we are entering the Christmas season as soon as Halloween and Thanksgiving happen. And we might jump the gun a little bit on that. But we're figuring out some scheduling stuff. But start doing your homework now and maybe watch Silent Night, Deadly Night. We're going to watch all 6. I think there's 6 of those. Because Arrow is just releasing a new box set of those. 3, 4,
That's
and
right,
5.
which is pretty great. Here we go. Sequels and remakes. Oh, they're remakes.
There's a remake?
A loose remake of the film entitled Silent Night was released on December 4th, 2012, featuring Jamie King and Malcolm McDowell.
Well, cut this part
I
out.
went to middle school with Jamie King.
Oh.
So I'm pretty famous.
Yep.
So technically with that one, there's 6.
Well, we got to watch the remake. I mean,
yeah.
That's the mission statement here.
That's part of
it. Yes. So we're going to watch Silent Night, Deadly Night here coming up soon. We might try to squeeze in something else. It just kind of depends on travel and stuff like that. Yeah, I'm going to be in DC next week. And of course, I'm going to go visit the Exorcist stairs as I did the last time I was there.
Oh, you mean the Joker stairs?
Oh, God. No. Yes. The Exorcist stairs. Yeah. But hang with us, even if we go dark for a week or two. And we will be back in a little bit to watch Silent Night, Deadly Night. And let us know what you're watching this October.
Yeah.
I'm
always looking for more recommendations.
Always up for that. So you can talk to us on Twitter at Hurtabit and Instagram at This May Hurt a Bit Pod. And get in touch with us. Let us know what you're watching for October. Any good ones? Bad ones, just keep it positive. Go for the good ones. But I purposely...
Or whatever, I'll fight you. It's fine.
Yeah.
Like, say shit about what we said. Just say it. No.
Yeah, there you go.
Don't try to fight me, please.
There were a couple of times this month where I was just like, oh, I haven't watched that sequel. And I was like, well, nope, got to save it for the podcast.
Yeah, so, I did the same thing. But there's a certain amount of like, I don't know when we're getting that. I'll just watch it. It's fine.
Right. Yeah. Like, for instance, I've never seen... Book of Shadows, the Blair Witch Project 2. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, that could be a series that we're going to do in a while. So I will. Yeah. I saved it. So.
Yeah. You can watch movies more than once, though, I found.
That's true.
But I 100% am doing the same thing where it's like, well, I might watch that a year from now. So I better not spoil it.
I better not do it now. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Well, have the rest of your October. Happy Halloween. Hope you're doing something fun for it. And let us know what you're watching too.
Yeah. Thanks for listening.
All right. Good night. This has been a Two Penguins media production. It was produced by James Strayer and edited by John C. Myers. Logo by Ethan Kimberling and music by Michael Arthur Holloway, who you can find on Bandcamp. Follow us on Instagram at This May Hurt a Bit Pod and on Twitter at Hurt a Bit. Email us at thismayhurtabit@gmail.com. And if you are so inclined, rate and review us on your favorite podcast app, and we'll see you next time.